So then, just like interfaces and functions, classes can also be generic, which can be useful, so that we can use a class for different types of data. For example, I've made an empty class here called data collection, which has a property called data on it. That gets set in the constructor function. Now, the type of that is currently a string array. We also have 3 empty methods here, which are going to be used to interact with that data and return some kind of value based on the data. Load one, which is going to return a single item from the array of data. Load all, which is going to return the whole array of data. And add, which is going to add a new item to the array of data. Now at the minute, this class is set up specifically to work with a string array of data, right? Which is fine. But then we couldn't use it for other types like numbers, dates, or custom types like user objects or something. It's just limited to string data. But we're going to make this class generic now by adding on the angle brackets again after the class name and adding t inside them to represent a type that can be captured by the class. And then when we instantiate a new instance of this class, we can specify what type we want to pass into it. So now in the constructor, we can say the data argument is an array of type t instead of string, meaning that whatever type we instantiate the class with will be the type of data we store inside the array. Alright, cool. So let's use this generic data type now, this generic class, if you like, to flesh out these methods as well. So then this load one function right here is going to return a single item from this array. So let's specify the return type right here to be t. Now inside this function, I'm just going to return a random item. We could pass through some kind of ID or index here, but instead we're just going to get a random one. So to do that, we're going to use the same approach as we have been doing in previous lessons. I'm going to paste in this statement right here where we have a constant I, which is equal to math.floor. Then inside that math.random times this .data.length. So the length of this array, so that gives us a random index. And then we can return this .data and then in square brackets, the index. So this is going to be a single item from this array. So we know it's going to be of type t. Alright, so let's do this function down here, load all. And since we're returning all of them, it's going to be an array of type t that we return. So t array, and inside the function, all we need to do is return this .data, like so. So this property. So we actually don't need to return anything, but we will do. We'll return an array of t as well. But we also need to take in an argument, and that's going to be called a value or val, and it needs to be of type t because we want to add a new item to the array, this data array. And everything inside that array has to be of type t. So the argument here needs to be of type t. This is the thing we want to add to the array. So inside here, we can just say this .data.push, and then we're going to push on the val, which is of type t. If we said that this was a string, then this wouldn't be allowed right here because it says the argument of type string is not assignable to parameter of type t. So this has to be type t. And then we said that we'd return the array after we've added one. So let's say return this .data. Awesome. So that's pretty much all this done. So now what I'm going to do is create a new data type, which we can pass into this class as t. So let's come down here and I'm going to say interface, user, and the user is going to be an object with a name property, which is a string, and also a score property, which is a number. Alright, so now we can make an instance of this data collection class by saying const users is equal to a new data collection, and the type that we're going to pass in is a user. So this right here, this t, is user for this instance. Okay, so we need to pass into the constructor the data property, the data argument, which is an array of type user. So we'll say array, and I'm just going to paste in a few objects. So we have 3, where we have a name and a score for each one. So they all adhere to this use interface, which is fine. They're all users. And now hopefully everything should work if we try to use these methods on this user's instance. So then, first of all, we shall say if we hover over this, we can see that this is a new data collection type where we pass the user in. But now what I'd like to do is say users.add, and we're going to add a new user, whereby the name is, I don't know, Luigi, maybe. And then the score can be 50. Alright, so we're adding a new user. Then I'm going to console.log load one. And then we will use the load one method users.load one, like so. And then we're going to duplicate this and say load all. And this will be users.load all. But also what I'd like to do is put these in variables. So I'm going to say user, or rather const. User is equal to this thing right here. Just so we can see when we hover over this, we can see the return type is user, according to this thing right here, a single T. Alright, and if we say load all, then we can see this thing is a user array. Alright, so I just wanted to demo that before we try this out, but let's see what happens now after we've logged these to the console. Let's see if it works. Open up your terminal, and we can see load one right here, and that's Mario, and then load all is all of them, including the one we added. Somewhere here. Alright, cool. So that's how we can use a generic class.